Hello, I'm Ed, welcome back to the studio, and this week it's mainly outside the studio because I took my Canon film SLR camera and my Lumix digital camera to the Lake District. So let's cut to that footage now. So here I am in the beautiful Lake District. Let's have a look at what beautiful landscape there is over here. I'm here to try and take some photos of this fantastic scenery. So this is the Lakeland Trails at Coniston. I've been doing these events for about 10 years off and on, but this year I'm going to take it easy and do the 15K challenge so I can take some pictures. I'm going to take some film pictures today, and I'm going to take some digital pictures up the old man of Coniston as well, so see which works out best. So this first photo I took was from halfway up the old man, looking down. There was a nice windy path that led back to Coniston village where we'd started off, and I just liked the way the curve of the road was heading down, and there's the shadow falling over the first part of it, so that came out quite nicely. This next one, on the way down, we passed a guy who was climbing one of the smaller little outcrops. I took a 12 to 40 4/3 lens, and I thought that would make a nice picture. Unfortunately, he'd sort of almost got down to the bottom. He was abseiling down, having climbed to the top, I think. I like the light on it, the way the man is holding his body, and you can see the rope, but I wish he'd been a little bit further up so it was a bit more dramatic. And then this one was taken from the top of the old man. You can see the cairn in the background, and with the trigonometry point was just off to the side. And I just wanted to get the feet in the picture just to give a bit of context and show, you know, we walked up there. This next shot is three people who are walking down a track, which is actually the race route that I ran on the following day, towards a car park where you'll see this ice cream van in the next set of pictures from race day. But this one was taken from halfway up the old man, looking down with a long lens, and I was trying to get the people within the road so that they would stand out against the greenery, because it was just for a moment that all three of them were actually within the road. I think I took about 3 photos there, which again is something you can do with the digital, but I probably wouldn't have been able to do that with the film. And this shot is of Lucy with her walkie-talkie. We carried walkie-talkies. We often do that if we're going somewhere far off and we might be separated and we want to tell each other where we are, usually because I've stopped to take a picture. This is an office from the Coniston Mining Company, I imagine, that is now completely derelict and falling apart, and there are pylons, which you'd have seen in the footage right at the beginning of the video, which used to carry things up there, and all the telegraph poles have all fallen, and obviously there's no wire there. So it's just a nice little shot there, and I wanted to get somebody in for context, but I'm always taking pictures of Lucy because she's quite often with me, so I just wanted to get something which wasn't anybody in particular. I obviously recognise it's her, but to anybody else it's just a shoulder to give a bit of foreground interest to the picture. And this photo, which is probably the one that I'm most pleased with, was taken just after we'd summited the old man, and I was setting off to walk back. Lucy was a little bit behind me, and so she's walking down from the cairn at the top, and I think you get a real sense of the scale of it, and there's a nice little sort of S-curve that goes up from the top of the cairn to where Lucy is, and leads the eye into the picture, and you can just see 2 guys who'd obviously made it up there just before us and were taking a little break in the background, but they're not so large that they take the attention away from the main point of the picture, so I don't mind having them there. And again, you can see the other fells behind, which gives it a bit of context and shows that you are somewhere high up, because if you couldn't see that, it might look like you were just somewhere flat. So that little bit of background, even though it's small, is very important to the picture. And I like the tones on this. I did do a bit of colour balancing to try and get nice tones. This picture is one which I did a bit more work on in Photoshop, and I actually used one of the presets to adjust the colours to be a bit more cinematic. I'm not sure this is one that I would use as it is, because it's not the reality. Again, it looks a bit like Mars, and it wasn't that red up there, but it does make it a more interesting and dramatic picture, and it does show off the cragginess, and the rocks stand out much better with this treatment. But how much is too much. Now this picture is pretty much as it came out of the camera, and you can see the dereliction there. Now I think this is a picture which will look a lot better printed large, where you can see more of the detail. On screen it loses something, but I think still it's a really nice sort of simple documentary image. And this, just a final picture, back down towards Coniston village on the last stage of the walk. So there we go, a set of digital images, and I shot probably a couple of hundred images to get those few. So let's contrast that with the following day when I went to do the Lakeland Trail, and there I had just had 36 exposures and just the one lens, just the 50mm lens. I'll show you just one of those pictures now. You can see that there seems to be an ugly brown stain right in the middle of the frame. Now I don't know where that's come from. Don't think it's a light leak. I think it's either that there was something wrong with the film or something wrong with the processing, but I'd be really interested to hear what people think, because that was a real disappointment when I saw that. So what I did then was I put all the pictures back into Photoshop, and I ran an action to replace that brown colour with shifting the hue slightly and lightening it up to make it less obvious. So the pictures I'm going to show you now have all had that process applied to them, and I think it improves them. But again, it's something that I shouldn't have had to do, and it is one of those things, like if you do film photography, you're just not going to know until you get it back if you're going to have an issue like this, whereas with digital you probably know straight away. So I took a few pictures in the race village before I started the 15k run, and then I took a few pictures on the run, but I didn't want to keep getting a camera out of my backpack. I was basically stopping only when I would have stopped for a little rest and a drink anyway, because I didn't want to affect the race at all. The race was the main thing. Taking the photographs was just something to document it. So only a very few pictures taken during the race itself, and then I took a few pictures afterwards when I'd finished and I was waiting for other people to finish, waiting for Lucy to finish. And I took a few shots after the event as well to use the film up, so some pictures of the general surroundings, and we went for a little walk in the evening, and I took some pictures up there and on our way to the pub for our dinner. Okay, so we've seen the digital, we've seen the film, and it's not an open and shut case, is it? I still think I prefer shooting film at the time, because I have to be a lot more careful about what I take pictures of. I take a lot fewer pictures, and I'm probably involved in the event that I'm doing much more, and I think it's really important to be present in the moment, which is kind of what my photography work is often about, people being on their phones and not in the moment because they're away from it. So I do love film, but that said, I think if you look at what I've shot, there is a lot more usable work in the digital, because I was able to keep going until I'd got the perfect shot that I wanted, or as perfect as I could get it. And I guess it's a luxury these days that at least I can do both. Of course, the problem then is often, have you done the right one at the right time? And that's why I tried to shoot my trip up the mountain on digital and the race on film, and that way I can do a comparison and decide whether it would have been better to do it the other way around. I don't think it would have been better to do it the other way around. Yeah, there's so many other aspects. Again, I limited myself to just using the 50mm lens on the film camera, so that obviously brought with it, again, some drawbacks in terms of not being able to take some of the shots I might have liked to, but also it freed me up. I wasn't thinking about what lens to choose. I think it's easy to forget how heavy digital cameras are, because they're stuffed full of heavy batteries and computer chips. I'm rambling on. I hope you found something interesting in what I've had to say. I'd really be interested to hear what you think, and as always, if you could put a comment down just to give me some food for thought, that would be wonderful. Subscribe, click the notification bell, all that stuff really helps me, and I hope to see you again next week, again, not quite sure what I'm going to be doing. I have got a weird old Holga lens and a lens baby which fits the either digital or film Canon, so I might have a play around with those and see what I can do with that, but I'm not sure yet. We'll see. Anyway, tune in next week if you would. Okay, so just a little update. I went back to the lab and asked them what they thought caused that stain, and they thought it was a light leak in the camera, and I thought it can't have been. I thought I shot that black and white film just before and there was no stain on that, so it can't be the camera. So I thought, well, let's have a look at the negative again, and I looked at the negative. I couldn't see the stain on the negative, so I scanned it again, and guess what, there is no stain. So it's a mystery to me. I didn't see any discoloration behind the negative when I was using the LED light to scan it, but maybe unbeknownst to me I'd got something underneath that was discoloured. I've looked at the light box again and I can't see any stains on it, but there are no marks on the negative, so user error. It was my fault, and it just goes to show, if something looks wrong, give it another try. Just go through all the different things it could be rather than just making assumptions. Anyway, thanks again for your company. Have a great week.